Hi guys, Leanna here with a hopefully slightly more quality video. The last one I did, Spur of the Moment, Bad Lighting, got 10,000 views, and I'm not used to having that many views. I know that's not huge by internet standards, but it's big for me. So I decided to try to clean up a little and make things look a little nicer. So less distracting background, hopefully better sound, yay, working on it. So today's video is going to be about this idea that we should have a Magna Carta for the internet. A Magna Carta, the Magna Carta, for those of you who don't know, is an old medieval rights document that basically all of our, Western justice has been, the Western justice system, I know that's a touchy word now, has been founded upon. And I think an internet Magna Carta of rights and responsibilities is a great thing. I think at this point, it's long overdue, and at this point, we need a Geneva Convention as well as a Magna Carta, and in some cases, we also need a Marshall Plan. Wow, history references. Okay. The reason I'm saying we need a Geneva Convention is that there's a huge amount of disagreement I've seen over what is fair conduct on the internet? What are the rules of warfare on the internet? And I hate using terminologies like that, but other people are. So I'm trying to speak that language temporarily. And I think this is something that needs a lot of discussion, not related to a particular issue. Because it's not related to a particular issue. I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing it discussing, race relations. I'm seeing it discussing transgendered rights. I'm seeing it discussing video games. I'm seeing all the same problems popping up again and again. When I used to work in talk radio, there was the same thing. The Facebook pages and the social networking, the comments were ridiculous. They were just character assassination. They were raging assumptions and attacks on people instead of ideas. And this was, to the commenters, fair comment. Now, outside the internet, I don't think any of these people would talk to people that way. And there's a lot of people that say this is just the internet. That's how the medium is the message argument, and that's not something I subscribe to. There's been a lot of talk about peer review right now. Marshall McLuhan, the dude that medium is the message thing kind of came from. It was something of a misquote. But a lot of his stuff was not peer reviewed. It didn't survive peer review when it was peer reviewed, but then it got republished and circulated through grassroots movements. It was never entered into academia as a serious thing. It became a populist movement. And populist movements are tricky because they're consensus by moving target. Things change so quickly and things move so fluidly, and there's so many people that communication becomes exceptionally difficult. So people get frustrated, and then things get heated, and then things go off the rails, and people end up fighting about fighting. And that's what seems, oops, I hit my computer. That's what seems to be happening a lot with internet debates. And I think the internet can be a place for respectful debate, the same way any other forum that used to be nuts and people cleaned up can be. The internet is what we make it. And I don't think we should be giving up on it, or any form of social networking. I don't think we should be giving up on Twitter as a place to exchange ideas. A lot of ideas have been exchanged over Twitter. So I'm not prepared to accept that the medium is the message. What we do have to do, however, is get some common understanding about what phenomenon like defamation, harassment, things like that are. And that's very tricky on the internet because the internet is an international phenomenon. The laws in your country may not be the same as the laws that exist in the country of the person you're talking to. Your perspective is going to be totally different. And I've been reminded of that very clearly of late, talking to people who are in places like Romania, Ukraine, Brazil, Cuba, places like that, who are coming out of periods of real totalitarianism and don't have the same freedoms and access to things that we do. I have a hard time telling somebody in Brazil what they should think because, you know, I don't have their experience. But what we need to do because of that, because things are so different and so varied and wonderfully diverse, and I am a big believer in diversity. I think that the more thoughts we can get in on something, the better. I think it makes me a wiser person to learn about someone else's experience. Because of that, though, we need to get better at communicating in writing. It's almost going back to that old Victorian tradition of letter writing. And to do that, there's some communication skills we collectively need to get better at. The model I'm seeing is that someone says something, another person assumes intent and jumps, gets upset, gets offended, whatever. Instead of having a what are you trying to accomplish here discussion, someone takes that isolated message, tweet longer, Facebook message, Tumblr, whatever, and reposts it somewhere where multiple third parties can read it. Now, when that thing's reposted, it's posted with context. Oh my God, look what they did. Or this so-and-so is trying to... The commentary added changes the way the third-party audience views that material. And then the original speaker, the original tweeter, whatever, has 20 to 50 people dogpiling them for something with an implied message attached that they didn't intend. And this person's going, what the hell? Stop harassing me. And then you get, you're not being harassed. You're a professional victim. You're a drama llama. You're a drama whore. Ad hominem accusations. That is ad hominem. When you attack a person, that is an ad hominem attack. That's what it means. You're not attacking their idea anymore. You're saying you are this. No ideas get exchanged. A person cannot be logical enough to realize they could have done something better under those conditions. If they back off, it's because of the sheer force of the blowback, not because they actually had an opportunity to recognize they could have done something better. And all that does is breed resentment. Now, this isn't a tone argument because it's about the nature of the communications. And this isn't a Pollyanna, just be nicer to each other, which I think people should be nicer, but everybody has a different idea of what nice is. This is a basic ground rules argument. That my basic ground rule for the internet now, for me personally, is before I jump to criticize somebody, I'm going to ask them if they actually intended what I took from something. Yeah, it takes longer, and it's not immediately gratifying. But I'm not going to end up feeling like a jerk because I pounced on somebody for what turned out to be no reason. No, I have my reasons. I don't just attack people for fun. I don't find that fun. I think that's a terrible way to spend your time. But there have been times I've gone, you're doing this, and I had my reasons. But based on what I've seen in the last month, I recognize that I can either be part of the solution or be part of the problem, and I'm choosing to be part of the solution. And, today I found out that somebody I talked to, I don't know them well, but somebody I talked to on Twitter is being harassed on World of Warcraft because of their involvement in Gamergate. And I just think that no matter how you feel about that issue, I don't think that that's something to try to kick somebody out of a WoW guild over. I mean, that's dumb. People have the right to their opinions. People have the right to dissenting opinions. People have the right to unpopular opinions. People even have the right to offensive opinions within reason. And if we're believers in free speech, and if we're believers in anti-censorship, and we're not believers in profiteering, we have to remember that free speech starts with every individual. We need the bravery to speak, and we need the restraint to give some people a chance to explain themselves before we judge them. And way too much of this trying someone in absentia is happening on the internet. And then people get sniffy, because I'm trying not to swear. Sniffy. That sounds like a dog's name. People get offended at the concept that they're rating or that they're organizing. And when 20 people come at someone in a 20-minute span, that's organization somehow. If you post something on a message board and whip people up, that is organization. And when 20 people come at somebody over a single issue in a short period of time, no matter how well-meaning those individuals are, when you've got 20 people at the same time, that's harassment, or at least it feels like harassment. And if someone says stop, you need to respect that. Because the minute someone says stop and you keep going, then that is the textbook definition of harassment. It doesn't matter how right you think you are. Someone says stop and you keep going, that's harassment. Now, I prefer to give people the opportunity to stop and calm down before I hit the mute button or before I hit the block button. And too often people are like, if you don't like what I'm saying, block me. And then when you block them, they're like, they blocked me! And then 4 of their friends come at me. You gotta give people a decent choice. You have to give people a fair choice. I'm hearing a lot of rhetoric right now saying, we had no other choice. It's the internet. You always have another choice. The minute someone goes, I had no other choice, I know this conversation is no longer rational. Why? On the internet, you always have the choice to walk away from your computer. That is just a fact. So when I hear anybody justifying their behavior on the internet by saying, I had no other choice or we had no other choice, that person's not being objective. That person's not being rational. That person is being controlled by their emotions instead of being informed by their emotions. Because the reality is, you always have another choice. You always have a choice to hit send. You always have a choice to just turn your computer off. Now, in some cases, I haven't had the opportunity to turn my computer off, but I can close Twitter. And owning those choices, I think, is going to make the internet a way better place, a way more pleasant place. And I believe it can be a more pleasant place. The internet is just a communication tool for people. The internet can be as welcoming or as unwelcoming a place based on what people choose to do with that space. It's the same as any gathering of people, any city, any conference, any club. You know, the internet is not a self-fulfilling prophecy. The medium is not the message. And you know, we need to engage in an online Take Back the Streets initiative. It's not safe to walk down, you know, the street, meaning the Twitterverse, at, you know, certain times on the internet right now. That's wrong. Because that means we just get the loudest voices and the most belligerent voices. We don't get the best voices. And I found the best thinkers are also the most sensitive people. They're open, and that's why they're sensitive, and that's why they have the best ideas, because they don't close off out of self-defense. And we're losing important voices because things are so toxic and because things are so confrontational. And that's when you get the both sides are doing it, it's everywhere. Yes, I never said it wasn't. If you feel like I'm talking directly to you in this, you might have a guilty conscience. Notice I said might. But I just want to see people stop being hurt. I want to see an end to the excuses for backdoor approval of stuff we all know is wrong. You should never go after somebody for their gender, and that includes people who are transgendered. You should never go after someone for their race. You should never go after someone for their sexual orientation. And the reason why is because that has nothing to do with whatever issue you're debating. That has something to do with you saying something because you think it's going to hurt, and that's wrong. But what I'm seeing is a lot of people go, yeah, that was wrong, when, say a transgendered person gets repeatedly and deliberately misgendered, just because that's a traumatic experience for a lot of transgendered people. And I hear people go, yeah, but, and then they start launching into the behavior of a transgendered person, and it becomes a referendum on this individual's worth or morality or actions. And that's precisely why attacks like this are so bad. Because the minute that goes boom, and somebody drops a bomb like that, everybody gets very, very reactive. And people start trying to find a way to explain away the bad behavior because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to have to cut somebody off who's convenient to them or who they happen to like. They don't want to have to stand up to a bully. So what they end up doing is they end up trying to find reasons that they can dislike the person on another grounds. And that's a completely separate issue. I don't have to like someone to believe in their right to a dignified existence. I think that if people were allowed more dignity, a lot fewer people would do bad things. Because I don't know of very many people, sociopaths are the only people who do things and don't care if someone's hurt. Because if you have any empathy, you care if people are hurt. I've seen a lot of people trying to reroute empathy or subvert empathy because it's inconvenient right now. And that's taking away a piece of your own humanity as well as the other person's. That is going to harm you in the long run when you do that more than the person you're attacking. Because the person you're attacking is going to walk away and they're going to heal and they're going to be okay. But now you're setting the habit for excusing dehumanization. And that's going to stick with you. And so I don't feel it's fair to open up a referendum on another person's behavior because they were a victim of a bigoted slur. Because that's just playing in to what the person who made the slur was trying to do. They were trying to hurt. When you accept that these things hurt, and that's why someone would do it, it's fair to assume that the person who was the victim of that is hurt. That's not the time to start picking at every single one of their personality foibles. They're not going to listen. It's not helpful. All you're doing is salting the wound. You're just reopening and making that attack sting more because it's open season. And this may not be fair. It's not fun to have self-control and not comment on something because it's not the appropriate time. But think about if you were in that place. You would want to be able to say stop enough. Boundaries are super important. And a lot of the false accusations and a lot of the nasty rumors and a lot of the hurt that flies around the internet could be significantly lessened if people just got both sides of something before making up their minds, or even more simply, deciding it's none of their business to have an opinion on it. That sometimes is the best thing you can do, the most humane thing you can do, is just go, this is none of my business. But on the internet, the internet is like a small town of millions of people. Everyone feels it's their business. Somebody writes an article they don't like. They have to take a stand against it. The best stand you can take against an article you don't like is don't read that person's stuff anymore. I know you don't have an instant gratification by doing that. You don't get to fight the man and feel powerful for 5 seconds. But it really is the most effective thing you can do. Just Don't read it anymore. And that's the problem with clickbait. I know there are so many times that I have to click on something and discover it's by an author I don't like. But that's when I close it, because internet analytics know how long you stay on a page. They know how long you've hovered a mouse over a particular button or an icon. So just don't read it. If you have no faith in a person's opinions, don't read it. The more you fight them, the more you make them relevant through sheer volume, the more powerful they get. But this is becoming a different topic, and I've already talked for 20 minutes. So I'm going to sign off now, and hopefully I'll be back next week. Unless the internet blows up. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.